Parks and River Committee. I am joined by my colleagues Curran Price and David Rue. And thank you, sir. Thank you. So we will officially start this meeting, and it looks like we have cards on items 10 only so far. And this is item 10 as well. Okay, I got it. Thank you. All right, so seeing as there are no general public comments, cards filled out, we will close public comment, and we'll hold the item 10 cards on the desk. And what I'd like to do, colleagues, if there are no objections, I'd like to move items 2 through 9 on consent. That's items 2 through 9, leaving items 1 and 10 to be heard, which brings us to item 1. Mr. Sutton-Willis, please read item 1.
Item number 1 is a communication from the mayor relative to the appointment of Ms. Jacqueline Lee Kennedy to the El Pueblo de Los Angeles Historical Monument Authority for the term ending June 30, 2021. Ms. Kennedy is here with us today.
Good morning, Ms. Kennedy. Yes, please have a seat. Is there, yeah.
Hello.
Hello, good morning and welcome. So,
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and your appointment to El Pueblo, and
Sure.
we'll go from there. Thank you.
Sure. By profession, I'm an attorney. I'm a business attorney, and I'm currently on the Bel Air Beverly Crest Neighborhood Council. And I started on the Neighborhood Council because I wanted to give back to the community and get more involved. And I'm also very active and an advocate for diversity and the cultures and arts. So when I checked in with the mayor's office, I wanted to see if there were any commissioner positions opened, and this was the commission that was recommended.
Okay, terrific. And so what are some of the opportunities or challenges you see at El Pueblo currently? I spent a couple weekends there. I got really excited and I wanted to see what was going on, so I looked around. It's very lively, thriving, lots of culture, and I love that. I think I did see some homelessness in the back of the church, especially later in the evening, and perhaps that might be a challenge that perhaps I would like to help with work on and to mitigate or reduce the number of homeless people around that area. But otherwise, I think it's beautiful and it's thriving. So, yes. So, yeah, serious issues to face, and any goals, generally speaking, with what you'd like to bring to the commission, and goals that you might.
Sure. Well, coming from a neighborhood council background, I'm an advocate of the community and of people. So I'd like to continue, helping bridge that or bring the communications between the commission and the city and the people, because after all, we are here to serve the people.
Terrific. Colleagues, questions, comments?
No, I just want to thank you for your willingness to be involved.
Thank you.
It sounds like you got the kind of energy that's going to be important, and it's certainly a background of performing complex activities with poise and sound judgment. So we know you're going to make a great addition to this commission and providing services to our community. So
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Terrific. Mr. Rue.
Yeah, I just want to also thank you for your service, for stepping up to serve. And I was part of neighborhood council myself before I ran for office, so I know how difficult and how challenging that job is as well. But, El Pueblo, this is where Los Angeles started, and this is an amazing place. It's very multicultural. I've been working with your president. I know he's here, Scott Crawford of the commission. As well as other members, in doing some more API, Asian Pacific Islander focused things in that area. So I'm very happy to see a fellow API member joining the commission as well, and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for stepping up. I think you'll bring a fresh perspective into the proceedings, and we congratulate you and thank you for stepping up and being willing to serve as a city commissioner.
Okay, great.
And so I think there is no objection, and we'll move your appointment forward, and you'll be confirmed by the full city council
Next week.
Okay.
next week. Terrific.
Thank you
Well,
very
Ms.
much.
Kennedy. Thank you so much.
Very much.
All right, so that will bring us to item 10.
Item number 10, Bureau of Engineering report relative to the North Atwater Non-Motorized Multimodal Bridge Project over the Los Angeles River. This item is also referred to the Public Works and Gain Reduction Committee.
Terrific, thank you. And before we bring up Shirley Lau from Bureau of Engineering to say a few words, we well, here are comment cards first, and we have quite a few, and I think we're going to probably be getting more as we go. So let's go ahead and allot 1 minute per comment. Otherwise, we'll be here for a long, long time. So I'd like to start with Jody Rath, followed by Jennifer Sampson, followed by Steve Shukovich. There we go. Those three, please step forward. Jody, Jennifer, and Steve. Welcome. Jody Rath.
Hi, how are you? So just 1 minute for...
Yeah.
Basically, I'm just a property owner in North Atwater, have a boarding facility close to the proposed project, and I'm just for the bridge to try and get people to the river and over the river, over into Griffith Park. It seems like in Los Angeles, we're stuck a lot of times in traffic, and this is one way to get people out of their cars and down into the river and, away for being on bikes and getting into Griffith Park and just all along the 51-mile bike path, which will hopefully be here soon. So I hope we can get this bridge approved and get built quickly.
Terrific. Thank you. Thank you. Jennifer Sampson, followed by Steve Chukovich.
Good morning, Councilman. Jennifer Sampson, River LA. I just wanted to say that on behalf of River LA, we have really tried to move this project forward by speaking to all aspects of the community, bike, pedestrian, and cyclists. And we believe this bridge is something that does the best job possible of creating shared space along the LA River, and we know that more and more people are going to be coming to the LA River, and that's something that we have to think about. How do we navigate shared space? And to the extent possible, we believe this bridge has done that. Not only that, as Jody mentioned, it's something that we could move forward today, which would be great to enable access for people that have been so eager and excited about seeing the LA River come to life, and we are excited at the possibility of this happening this year, and we really hope that that's something that could get done.
Terrific. Thank you. And before Mr. Chukovich begins, we'll be followed by John Switolski, Carrie Sutkin. I didn't see... Oh, you are back there. And Karen Barnett. Sir.
Hi, I'm Steve Chukovich, and I was the designer of the bridge, worked on this project for about 5 years. During that time, we spent exhaustive efforts going through both community review, agency review, multi-agency review. The bridge design that is in place right now that people are seeing today is really a result of that process. The issues of working in the river, the issues of working with shared space with both equestrians, pedestrians, bicyclists, everything within that. So there was a very strong effort to try to make this work in a very, very small space. So the bridge design does indeed respond to that very, very difficult space along the river and the complexities of the river itself. So that's what we've really worked to try to get that accomplished.
Terrific. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, John Mikulski, Carrie Sutkin, and Karen Barnett. Good morning.
Good morning.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and member of the committees. Again, John Switolski, also with River LA, and I appreciate the opportunity to urge the committee to adopt this report and really move this project forward. This bridge clearly went through a process. And the community members were heard. People were for, people are against. The permitting occurred, and new opinions came to the table, again, for and against this bridge. I think what we risk here in not approving this bridge is $3 million of public funds that have already been spent on the permitting of this bridge, and $5 million in public philanthropy. If we do not approve this, then we lose that. And I think the result of that is a chilling effect through the philanthropic community that this process does not, in fact, work. And if we go through this process and we can't get a bridge constructed, why would we invest in the river going forward? And so that's where we come down on, and we appreciate your consideration.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good morning.
Very second.
How are you? I'm here as a resident of Elysian Valley, and I wasn't involved in any process. I know that our community has been waiting for a bridge over the LA River, I think, maybe as long as the equestrians, and it kind of had to do with the Metrolink station. And I know that there's been movement on that recently, and Metrolink is funding it, but I'm here kind of not to speak about the merits of the specific bridge, Mitch, but just kind of about the process that we feel out there, that there really isn't a process for criteria for bridges or for improvements, and the city budget, you know, there's really no river department per se, right? And so it's difficult sometimes to get funding for a trash can, let alone a sidewalk or a bridge. And so I'm kind of speaking from the residents that feel that this bridge was taken out of the queue, given special consideration. It's one thing for a small amount of public funds, but it's really kind of exceeding now. I think the report says $21 million. That's a lot of money. And there have been change orders and irregularities that a normal public project wouldn't go through. So those are the concerns.
Thanks, Karen. Thank you. Karen Barnett.
Hi, I'm here as a resident, but I'm also on the Neighborhood Council, and I'd like to bring up that the Neighborhood Council for Atwater Village hasn't had an opportunity to make a community impact statement between the time between the mayor's letter and this committee meeting. But for me personally, I would like to have the time to look at an alternative design. This project, as it now stands, has been well over 5 years with issues due to funding, design, and community requests for safety improvements. I think the alternative design would offer an opportunity to address the equestrians' concern on the bridge and the ramp. It would lower the city's maintenance costs overall. It would allow for flood mitigation measures to be incorporated into a bridge and ramp. The design could be integrated more into the river and into the environment, and there would be less costs over time due to the lack of interest payments on the bond.
Okay, thank you, Karen. Next, we'll have Ben Feldman, Elaine Brock, and Arthur Golding. Hey, Ben.
Hi, how are you doing? Good morning.
Morning.
Okay, so I'm here today in support of the Atwater Multimodal Bridge. As the landscape architect on the project, we feel that this process has been thoroughly looked at and designed, and clearly we're getting more comments from the community, which is great. I would say that this is a highly specialized occasion to have money on the table for a river improvement project that's actually tracked to the 2007 LA River Revitalization Master Plan. I think this is really an important project, not only to make an important connection across parks, but to do something in the 10th anniversary of the LA River Master Plan that really comes forward with a dramatic improvement that would be impactful in a positive way to the community, plus be highly visible along the LA freeway corridor heading north. So we just want to help promote the project and ensure that we stand committed to this effort.
Thank you. Elaine Brock.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
that's all right.
Good morning, gentlemen. Regarding the bridge, I don't like it. I don't like the money spent on it. And I do think a alternate one should surpass. If you go to the cabling, the cost is astronomical. Although if you do decide to go through with it on the mast, I don't want to see any flags up there because the flags are going to deter from the horses. And not only that, used for advertisement. This is a bridge to get from point A to point B. It is an equestrian pedestrian bridge. And where are the pedestrians going to go? On the bicycle path and trying to get to the LA River? They're not going to go through our tunnel, which is it's basically an equestrian tunnel. I can attest to it that it's been there for over 70 years. Now, I've used it since I was 16 years old. How old do you think I am now? Come on, guys. How old do you think I am?
Do you think we're crazy?
I am. Okay, real quick. I'm 75.
Years young.
You got it. I drive that tractor.
Thanks, Elaine. Thank you. Arthur Golding.
Good morning. I'm Arthur Golding. I'm an architect and urban designer. I've been involved in issues around revitalizing the river for 29 years. I'm going to read something briefly. As an architect and longtime advocate for revitalization of the Los Angeles River and its watershed, I'm pleased to express my support for the proposed Atwater pedestrian equestrian bicycle bridge as designed by Buro Happo. This strikingly beautiful bridge will be a symbol of the rebirth of the river, and it will provide significant improvements in circulation for hikers, equestrians, and cyclists. With its expression of the joy of spanning and the grace of crossing, this bridge is a worthy addition to the great sequence of bridges that cross the Los Angeles River in the downtown area. This letter was written in 2011. My assessment hasn't changed. I want to end on a note of caution. Often in design and construction projects, an attempt to save money by downgrading quality backfires, ends up getting less quality for maybe the same amount of money and sometimes even more.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. We'll next be heard by, from Ari Mostov, Ed Kaufman, and Olivia Frost. And has everyone that wanted to speak filled out a comment card? Yeah, okay. Ari Mostov.
Good morning. I'm a resident of the Atwater Village, and I've been here for maybe 3 months, but I'm originally from San Francisco and lived in Los Feliz, and I love the LA River. I honestly think there's so much more potential here for businesses to really get more foot traffic and really see this area of LA that might have been off the radar for so many people to really attract more clients, more people. I'm also an equestrian, and I have a horse right on the LA River, and I think it's one of the most exceptional pieces of property in the country where it's both urban and nature meeting together in such a harmonious balance. And all I can say is that the more that we can do to make this a hospitable place for both residents, business people, and locals, and horses, and cyclists, and pedestrians, et cetera, the better. And I just think we're really able to revitalize the neighborhood itself. And that's all I can say.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Ed Kaufman.
Hi, my name's Eli Kaufman.
Oh, Eli, I'm sorry.
Hi, it's okay, Ed. I work at River LA. I'm the creative director there, and from my perspective, it's just an opportunity for us to create more accessibility to the river and across the river. As a planner of things like we're trying to plan a walk that's coming up on May 20th, to find the number of miles continuous to create a community event of that nature is challenging along the LA River. So having a bridge of this nature that would help us connect to our natural resource and to each other, I think, is a fantastic opportunity, and I'm 100% in support of this as an employee of River LA, but also as a community member of Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you, Eli. Olivia Frost.
Hi, I'm Olivia Frost, and I own a horse training business as well as run a boarding facility right there on the LA River. I think it's a great opportunity to be able to explore more of our natural landscape in Los Angeles, and as a proponent for healthy outdoor living and accessibility to parks, and also cross-training for my horses and for my clients, I think it's an important aspect to be able to explore other areas like the hills and the river to be able to safely navigate and to be active in.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And we'll
You support the bridge.
I think so. We'll last be heard by Karen Flores. You're going to decline. All right. It's all been said, huh? All right. It has. Are you sure? You don't want to say anything? Okay. All right. Thank you so much. All right. At this time, we'll bring Shirley Lau up for the presentation from Bureau of Engineering. And Deborah Weintraub, also BOE, AGM. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Shirley Lau with the Bureau of Engineering Bridge Improvement Division. This report before you provides BOE recommendations for your consideration to implement the North Atwater Non-Motorized Multimodal Bridge over the LA River. So to provide some background on this project, this proposed bridge will be situated roughly 1/2 mile upstream of Los Feliz Boulevard, connecting the two banks of the LA River. The bridge would be approximately 325 feet long, 35 feet wide, with two separate paths, one for pedestrians and bicyclists and the other path for equestrian use. This proposed project is number 147 of the city's LA River Revitalization Master Plan that was adopted in 2007. So on September 14, 2016, this project's plans and specifications were advertised for invitation of bids by the Board of Public Works. The plans and specifications that went out to bid is for the cable stay bridge design provided by River LA, a nonprofit organization formerly known as the LA River Revitalization Corporation. Bids for this cable stay bridge design were received on October 19, 2016. 5 contractors provided bids on this project. The lowest responsible firm's bid is roughly $12.5 million to construct this project. Due to the bids coming in at almost 35% higher than originally estimated, there was a shortfall in project funds to award the construction contract. On November 21st, 2016, this committee instructed that BOE report back on sources of funds to cover the shortfall for the project and also provide a construction cost comparison between the cable stay bridge design and an alternative prefabricated bridge design. So in response to that instruction, please refer to the information provided in Table 3 of the report. So the top half of the table shows the construction costs for the cable stay design, which is based on actual bids, at $16.1 million. And the prefabricated bridge, with no actual bids, is estimated at $11.4 million. The cable stay bridge is shovel-ready. With the prefabricated bridge, there'll be some additional steps prior to construction. It will require a design consultant to perform redesign work that would include preparation of a new set of specifications and plans. We will need to revise some of the permits and also amend the environmental document. Though a portion of the cable stay design, the substructure, which is the work in the river, for the west abutment and center pier, it potentially could be used in the new alternative design. We will need to modify the east abutment due to the change in the type of bridge. And we also need to recirculate the environmental document to comply with the California Environmental Quality Act. And any changes in the substructure of the bridge, we need to go back to all the regulatory agencies for all the permits within the LA River. So also in Table 3, I want to bring your attention to the existing funding available for both types of designs. At this time, we have identified all the funding necessary to award the construction contract for the cable stay bridge, which includes almost $7.7 million of external funding. In addition, roughly $900,000 of funds have already been invested in the design phase. For the prefabricated design, the $7.7 million of external funding will not be available, and therefore a shortfall of $2.9 million is shown for the prefabricated design in the report. Related to the timeframes of the project implementation for each of the designs, the cable stay bridge is ready for award of the construction contract at this time. With all the permits are in place, as well as all the funding identified, it is anticipated that with an award of the contract by the end of this month, construction will take a little over 2 years to complete, which will be roughly September 2019. So with the prefabricated bridge, earlier I discussed some of the redesign activities, such as amendment of permits, environmental documentation, and these are outlined and itemized with estimated timelines in the report on page 4. In addition to those activities, I also want to bring up that the bid and award of the new design would take place roughly between June and October of 2018. Environmental mitigation work and water diversion could be prepared in April and May of 2019, and construction can start in June of 2019. So construction of this alternative design is estimated to be completed by June of 2021. Lastly, also included in this report are 2 gift agreements, one from the private donor to gift a cash donation of $3.88 million to construct the cable stay design bridge. The other gift agreement is with River LA that transfers all the other grant funds and all documents associated with the project to the city. BOE recommends the approval of the instructions set forth in this report, and this concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Shirley. Anything to add, Deborah? No? Okay. So you didn't mention the TDA funds as far as, I know it's in the report. Could you talk a little bit about that as far as helping to cover the costs?
Yes, the TDA funds, TDA funds is a source of funds that comes annually to LA DOT through Metro. It's actually a state tax, and it's apportioned to the city by population and formula. And so the TDA funds were tapped to cover the shortfall of this project because for Metro guidelines, they have to be pedestrian or bicycle facilities to use this funding. And so we spoke to DOT, and DOT is willing to fund $6.9 million over the course of 10 years. So basically the Public Works Trust Fund will front the $6.9 million, and it will be repaid by the TDA funds annually. So roughly $693,000 a year.
And approximately what is the total amount the city receives receives yearly or in a defined time frame of those TDA funds?
I'm not certain about recent years, but in previous years, I believe roughly $2.5 million, $2.5 to $3 million per year.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so this funding would account for at least the next 3 or 4 years of all the TDA funds that the city receives, more or less, if those projections are
right. If we were
somewhat,
to if we were to pay it sooner than correct. But here we recommended over a 10-year period.
And allocating those funds have to go through a process as well.
Correct.
So has BOE staff negotiated directly with the Lucretz family in terms of, the foundation rather, in terms of the gift agreement?
Yes.
So Bureau of Engineering staff has. How about, has the city attorney approved this agreement?
Yes.
To our knowledge, the city attorney has?
The city attorney was present during the negotiations.
Present, okay.
Yes.
And has the CLA been involved?
I do not believe so.
Okay. And then another question about the Lucretz Foundation. Nothing prevents them from contributing more for this project.
Correct.
Right. As it now stands, it's roughly a quarter of the projected cost is what they would be contributing due to the escalating price of the bridge. And for a lot of people here, I think some people know this, but others don't. In 2011, it was going to be a $5 million bridge. And so the Lucretz Foundation was going to donate funding for the entire bridge. But 6 years later, it's a $16.15 million bridge is the current estimate based on the design. So I think we covered some of this many months ago when we asked for, we had the conversation about alternative designs and figuring out a way to do it less expensively. Have any other nonprofits been asked to support, or have any other sources of funding been bandied about or thought of?
For the prefabricated?
Well, just for this bridge as currently designed.
Well, as currently, the cable stay.
You're right.
I personally have not looked at other nonprofits, but we did look at other sources of potential state or even federal funds. There are some programs such as the recreational trail program and future ATP and That's all coming up in 2018, and there was some changes to their program due to the FAST Act, the federal FAST Act being signed. So those are not currently available, but they could be available in the future.
So back a moment to the TDA funds. Now, these funds can be used for a variety of projects that, as you mentioned, that are related to other modes of transit, pedestrian, bicycling, et cetera. So they're eligible for projects across the city for that purpose. So what is the determining factor for applying that money to other projects? So DOT and BOE feel that this bridge is a good candidate for this money, obviously. But what are some other projects? In other words, I'm wondering if other projects or other ideas have been identified, and if this $6.9 million of funding if it's going to be competitive just within the city.
Yes, in discussions with DOT staff, there are other bike projects, other bike path projects. Some of those they're not shovel ready. There's a lot of either environmental clearance issues or community issues, and so those were they don't appear to be ready at this time, and so these funds could be used on this project.
So the contract has to be awarded in May. Is that a firm deadline, or do the bids expire? Can you state again why that's?
The bids expire June 2nd.
June 2nd.
Right.
Okay. And tell us about the design itself. What percentage? I know it's a double bridge, essentially, a side-by-side bridge, but part of the same engineering. And is one side specifically for equestrians and the other side specifically for bicyclists and pedestrians?
Yes, there's a slight gap in between the two paths, so each one is roughly 12 feet wide. The equestrian one is definitely different because the railing is higher for equestrian use. Also, the deck surface is different as well. So yes, it was designed specifically for equestrians.
Okay. And then the TDA funds, again, those can be used for equestrian uses as well?
That I'm not certain, but for sure pedestrian bicycle facilities. So that would be, I guess, one side of the bridge.
Okay. All right. Colleagues, questions? Mr. Rue?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Wait, so June 2nd deadline was for the ATP funds or the TDA funds?
The June 2nd is when the construction contract, the bids expire. For the bid that came in for the cable stay design.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I know this is going to be heard in 3 different committees. Our committee as well as Public Works and Transportation, which I fortunately sit on all 3, so I'll be hearing this 3 times.
Oh, you're lucky. You're the lucky one.
Yeah. So in anticipation of some of the other questions that are going to come up, the Public Works Trust Fund account being used to pre-fund all of these construction. Is there going to be interest added to that when we repay using the TDA funds, LTF, TDF funds?
I'm not certain of that, so I will look into that, though.
Okay. And so, I mean, the chairman was asking these questions. I just want to just re-clarify. So the LTF, TDA funds, what else can they be used for in the city of LA? Or what else have they been used for?
What else have they been used for? I believe in previously speaking to DOT staff over the years, actually I've built other bike facilities where we've tapped into the TDA funds, either for portion to fund the LA River bike path, or we've also tapped into it for like some bike lane projects. So at least for me, a lot of the TDA funds that I used on my projects were for bike facilities.
And you said it's about roughly $2.5 million a year?
Yes.
Of the TDA funds. So are they already accounted for? Are there other projects in the works for that money, or is this?
For in the previous years?
Or going forward, because because it looks like we're going to pay it out over 10 years, so it's probably about $700,000 a year.
Correct.
Right? So, which doesn't account for all of it. So, is it going to be any other competitive projects or?
Yeah, I believe DOT is, they probably have a plan of of projects in general that could be funded by this kind of funding. But I don't have the details of what projects they have gone into that.
But we can secure it. So it can be secured for this project, though. You're saying the $700,000.
Yes.
Okay. For the ATP, I know there's going to be, especially in transportation, some of the other council members are going to be worried about the ATP funds. If we use the ATP funds for this project, will that impact any other projects that are currently using these funds, or are these available dollars as well?
No, the ATP fund is specifically for this bridge project, so I don't believe there will be an issue. Losing the ATP funds is probably, it's always not a good thing to lose, I think, state or federal funding. So, and I just want to mention that we did receive already one-time extension during the funding allocation stage, and also one-time extension for the construction award stage. And so that's like the maximum amount of extensions that the CTC would allow per their guidelines, and they have given it both to us. So I think at this time, for us to return the ATP funds, definitely, they will question why.
So the $3.6 million, as you guys previously stated and when you came to committee before, is risk of being lost because of the deadline.
Yes, that we need to award the contract by September. We need to show the state that we awarded a construction contract by September 30th in order for the funds to remain.
And while the ATP funds could be used for other projects, in this particular case, you won't be able to, right, because of the time?
Right,
the
and
earmark.
so if we don't use it on this project, it reverts back to the state. They will pick another project.
So nothing else will be affected by this. Okay. I'm good for now.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Price? No question? All right. So I just want to say a few things before I make the recommendation. So we have heard this item last fall. As we know, there's been years of work on this. And I've also been going out to the community on a number of times, specifically working with the equestrian community. And as you know, Deborah, you sat down with us, I think it was early last week, for a good conversation, a good, honest conversation about how the equestrian community in general feels about their lack of being able to participate in the design of the project. And so my feelings that are as follows, and I have a letter which is qualified. It demonstrates I would describe this as qualified support from the preserve Atwater Ranchero. I think that the biggest concerns that the equestrian community had with the design was the concern on the actual cables for the cable stay design. That concern was, I think, mitigated some months ago. But I don't think anything changes the strong feeling in the community that the way the bridge lands on either side of the river is not designed to really satisfy their interests. Having said that, I sense that they're ready to support the design, but it's going to need some mitigation in terms of the landings on either side of the bridge, because that's still a concern. I think that no one wants to sacrifice the funding that has been discussed, which is 3/4 public dollars. 3/4 of the funding ultimately will be public dollars minimum, because right now it's estimated at being a $16.15 million bridge. Contingency costs being what they are, 2021 completion date. One thing, there's a pretty good bet that it's not going to arrive less than that as far as the final dollar amount. Also, I think the community feels that general speaking, you heard some of the comments earlier that there could have been a broader participation in terms of the design of the bridge all the way through the process. Now, I've been in office for almost 4 years, and one of my first meetings I had was about this bridge, and it was an ask to identify a shortfall of funding then. That was in 2013. And so, in addition to the community feeling somewhat shut out by this, I feel shut out by it too, and I've been in office for 4 years. No hard feelings, but this is a design that underwent its design years and years ago, and I feel that it's a very, very beautiful design. Somewhat opulent for the location, quite frankly, especially when, in the very beginning, the equestrians just wanted a way to cross the river safely. No one in the community asked for this beautiful design. And as a lover of architecture and a lover of great design, I'm not critical of it at all. But it is really a bridge that maybe, perhaps, should have been a little more utilitarianly planned. And I think that would have been more widely accepted because it also would have been a lot less expensive. So here we are at this 11th hour with a $16.12 million bridge that the community didn't really ask for as far as this particular design, which is why last fall we thought, might there be another way forward? Also, in relation to Mr. Lecretz, philanthropist, a good man, we are grateful for the Lecretz Foundation for their gift to all of us. And I know Mr. Lecretz, and I think that he really does want to have some sort of legacy for his, giving spirit. But I don't know that his demand is that the whole area has to be called Lecretz Crossing or the Lecretz Bridge or the Lecretz this or that. So I want to have sort of dialed in a little more on that in terms of the gift agreement. But also, all of the work that's gone into this. I'm really not slamming anyone here. River LA, passionate, great stewards and advocates of the river. Your own department, the mayor's office, and working with the DOT to identify this additional $6.9 billion funding gap. We got to this day, really, with a beautifully designed bridge that perhaps isn't the most ideal design for the location. However, on balance, I think everyone can live with it. But I'm going to make some following requests, having said what I just said. What I'd like to do, colleagues, is approve recommendations 4 through 7 in the report dated April 25th, before us, 2017. I'd like to instruct the CLA, with the assistance of the city attorney and the city engineer, to be the lead on the agreement and to refine the draft gift agreement, which really came to us rather late, not in time for any of us to adequately dig deep on ourselves. At any rate, refine the draft gift agreement between the private donor, Mort Lecretz, the foundation, with specific terms for the city to accept the cash donation of $3.888 million to be applied to the $16.15 million construction budget of the North Atwater Multimodal Bridge and report back to this committee within 30 days. That puts us right on the edge there, but we'll do it. Also, shared cost issues, including contributions of all funding sources. Also, review the naming policy to find an agreeable recognition for the generous donation to partially fund the North Atwater Bridge. Also, further review the issue of maintenance and future care responsibilities. I'm not quite satisfied with what I know about cable stay construction in terms of the expected 10-year cost of maintenance. I have some reservations about that, so I'd like to have that further reviewed. And then review Section 11 for form and consent and reciprocity for the city. And as Mr. Rue mentioned, item is pending before the Public Works Committee, which I also sit on. And then to honor the request of our colleague Mike Bonin, who is Chair of Transportation Committee, we will refer this to T Committee, as it does involve DOT funds. And I think that's a good, balanced way to proceed. I've given it a lot of careful thought, we all have. But that way we move this forward with these required reports back as this report is also wending its way through the other two committees. That is my recommendation. Yes, Mr. Rue.
Quick clarification.
Sure.
Wait, should it be 3.88 or 4 point? Isn't the total gift amount 4.2 or 4?
Well, it was originally 5, but it was 1.1 plus for the design. Is that correct? Or let me restate that. The 3.88 is what's left
That's
right.
after you remove the design
That's right.
portion.
That's right.
Right?
So I want to make sure we don't offend the Kretz family, so we should write their whole.
Yeah, we won't.
4 point.
Yeah, I don't think we will. I mean, yeah, but
Yeah.
point taken.
And I'm fully agreeable with what you're requesting. I just want a quick clarification. When
Sure.
you ask this, when you're asking the departments to relook at the draft gift agreement,
Yes.
are you asking for just this particular gift agreement or for all gift?
Just this gift agreement, but to the concern that you've raised, which we all have, we should at some point figure out a template for gift agreements for the city.
Right, so I just wanted to take this opportunity to, I'd love to work with you, Mr. Chairman, because I've hit some of these problems in other gift agreements where we should look into, and before I was working directly with Recreation and Parks, but now it makes sense, in this case, this is BOE, to have some sort of guidelines, because to your point, I mean, what amount dictates for a naming, and what percentage, right? I mean, I have a different gift agreement in another area where the amount was only about $250,000, and we were going to name everything after these folks. And versus this, they're only contributing about like 28%, but we're talking $4 million. So there needs to be some sort of rhyme or reason on these, especially these namings. And I mean, I want to definitely encourage the private sector because we definitely need their help. But I think it serves them well as us, because sometimes I feel like we're giving away the farm, and other times we're not doing enough justice for the amount of donation. So some sort of guidelines. Maybe now is not the appropriate time to include it in this motion, but I just wanted to use this opportunity to highlight.
Mr. Rue, I think it's a great point, and I think that this process that we're about to dive into can inform a way forward on a consistent way, or a template, if you will, for naming rights.
Right.
Yeah, thank you. Ms. Price, all right, so that shall be the order as stated, without objection. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for all your work on this. Hasn't been easy, but we'll get there. All right, I do believe there are no other comment cards of any kind, and I think that was the last item. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.